again and welcome back to the channel. So today I am taking a look at the Robocop figure from Hot Toys. This was one of the first Robocop figures that they put out, and with Robocop 3 either on the market now or coming soon, I thought it was only fitting to go back and take a look at this figure. This is one that I wanted in my collection for quite some time. I did actually manage to get him at quite a decent price from cash converters, although the box is damaged and I'll show you that in just a moment. This was one of the first die-cast figures that Hot Toys put out. You can see here D04. They must be into double digits now with all of the Iron Man figures, but I really wanted this guy in my collection. Managed to get him for a decent price. I can't remember exactly what I paid, but I know that it was a steal. But unfortunately, the box is pretty damaged. See here, it took a nasty ding. I actually got it imported from Queensland. I don't know if it was dinged on the way or if it already had that. I certainly wasn't made aware of it before I bought it, but a bit of a shame. But then the box itself has this nice acrylic overlay. On the back, we can see all of the individuals that were responsible for making this figure. Robocop on the side. And then if you're not familiar with die-cast figures, they all have the same sort of box. So this nice slip cover, and then inside, they have a styrofoam underlay to keep it nice and protected. And so Robocop embossed there. So let's take him out and have a look. Okay, so here he is out of the box with all of his accessories. He comes with 3 alternate faceplates, angry, neutral, trout pout, a battle damaged helmet, battle damaged chest plate, a plastic sidearm, die-cast sidearm, left and right articulated hands, a data spike hand, an OCP branded magnetized tool, batteries, remote control, and a hexagonal stand and crotch grabber. So taking a close look at these accessories, let's start off with the sidearms. So as I said, he comes with one plastic sidearm that is articulated, and it also has a removable clip. And then he also comes with this die-cast sidearm, which is not articulated and does not have a removable clip. The weight is significantly different, obviously. And you can see as well that there are some subtle differences with the paint application. There's some silver here on the plastic, whereas the die-cast is just completely matte black. He also comes with these articulated hands. These are a really good idea, but I don't think they work with Robocop, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But the articulation is really intricate. You can see every single joint is articulated. So you get 2 of those, a left and a right. He also has this right hand with the data spike. It's plastic, so you're not going to stab yourself with it. It is a nice touch. Mine's a little bit bent at the end there. This tool here is magnetized. This is for taking the chest plate off. Of course, it doesn't work for this one. It works for the die cast. There we are. On the back. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so on the back, and there's a slot there for some batteries. And if you put the batteries in, I don't have them in. I typically don't have batteries in any of my Hot Toys because they just corrode. You put these batteries in there, and then this here has a button there. The O is the button, the O and the B. And he says a few things, I don't know, put down that telly, let's talk about it, and fancy a coffee, I think he says. So this is the battle damaged alternate look that you can have, and I will change his look in just a moment. This is really well done. This isn't die cast, it is completely plastic, but the detail is very good. You can see all the scorch marks here. That looks more like the damage that he takes in Robocop 2 when Kane beats the shit out of him rather than in the first one. And then he has this bullet hole all across his helmet and even in the visor. And this is really well done. And again, I'll show you later, you can actually see his eye coming through that crack. So that's a real nice touch. This again is plastic. And then the alternate face plates. These are really nice. I don't know if there were some issues with getting the license for the likeness of Peter Weller. I believe there were some issues because This one doesn't have an unmasked head, whereas years later they released the 2-pack Murphy and then Robocop with Peter Weller's likeness. But you can still tell, at least in my opinion, you can tell straight away it's Peter Weller. Even with the third Robocop that's coming out, even though Peter Weller wasn't the actor portraying Robocop in that movie, I think they've used the same sculpts. So that's the only way I would have it. So you can see this, to me, definitely captures that likeness. This is probably the best one here, this pissed off one. And you can see, I don't know if you can quite get that on camera, you can see the teeth. Really nicely done. The sculpting is top notch. Has like a gloss over them as well, so it does have a little bit of a shine to it. And he also has a little bit of a 5 o'clock shadow. So these are really nice. And in terms of how they work, so the lid just comes straight off. That is super creepy. That slides up. And then an alternate slides down. Now it is important to note that you can actually damage the chin if you're a little bit too rough. You'll see on this default one there, this is the one that I normally have imposed with. It's got a little bit of a scuff on the chin. That is from this chin guard there. So just be a bit cautious, but you do have to just pop it in a little bit further down and then you can get that on top. And there we are, and there's the alternate look. And while we're at it, let's change up the mask, the helmet. It's the battle damage look. And let's see if you can see that eye. I'm not sure if I can quite get it on there. He does actually have an eye. At the back you can see there. That plate there has the eye. Yeah, unfortunately, you'll just have to take my word for it. I'm really struggling to pick that up, but it is there and it does look very, very cool. And then for the battle damage chest plate, so this just clips out. This is also plastic. You can see the speaker there for where the sounds come out of him. And that one, there's some magnets on the collars and then some clips underneath. There you go. So you have that alternate look. I think works really, really well. Taking a close look at the actual figure. First off, let's just go over what is die-cast and what is not. So as I said earlier, the plate is not die-cast. The arm, the upper arm and the lower portion is completely die-cast. From the wrist down, that's all plastic. The helm is plastic, and then all this portion of the leg and the bottom of the leg is completely die-cast. The foot has some die-cast, so this case across is die-cast, and then this portion at the front is all plastic. And then the back as well, this portion here is plastic, and it's just important to note that that is completely articulated. So these are like the Achilles or whatever that he has, the tendons as in the movie, and they are articulated. There's a ball joint just here, and then it pegs in down the bottom, so it gets a good range of motion. The suit also includes the compartment for his sidearm, and that's on the right leg here. It can be a little bit fiddly and it can just open randomly. Pop that loose, and there you can see inside is the holster for his weapon, and it is articulated, so it just pops out. You can actually get either of the weapons in. So this is the die cast here, and it just slots in like that, and it's completely concealed. So if you want him posed up on the shelf with that coming out, looks like he's about to draw, you can. And likewise with the plastic, again, obviously it works in the same way. I prefer the die cast in here only because of the weight. If you have him lean to one side, the weight of the pistol forces this holster to actually pop out. With the plastic, it doesn't quite have the weight, so it can actually just fall back in. But it is nice that they've included that. He also has these rubbery parts just here. So the articulation for the elbow is very, very well hidden. You can see that this is all rubber as I'm pressing it. And that is very movie accurate. That is exactly how it looks, but it works really well with the figure because you don't then get the joints, you don't get anything that's unsightly. It does work. The only thing which does look a little bit weird is you can see when the shoulders are out, they look a little bit strange. So pulled out like that looks a bit weird, but again, being a cyborg, there's no reason why it wouldn't look like that. I mean, obviously it doesn't in the movie, but you know, he is a cyborg. But yeah, it's a little bit unsightly to have it like that. But overall, not too bad. Not sure if you can pick this up on the screen, but he has this very subtle blue tinge to him, which is more reminiscent to the suit in Robocop 2 than Robocop 1. So the look is very similar to the second movie as opposed to the first movie. In terms of the compartment at the back, as I covered in the intro, this does come off. You do need this magnetic tool just to pop on and it lifts off. As I said, I don't put batteries in my figures because they just corrode, and I don't really like the gimmick that Hot Toys has. Some of the Star Wars figures with the light up lightsabers and stuff, yeah, that's cool, but for this figure, just for the sound, I don't really think it's worth it. And unfortunately, I've got no batteries left, so I can't demonstrate the audio. In terms of the hands, I mentioned in the introduction that I didn't like the articulated hands. You only really get a couple of options. You can either have the fists or the data spike for the right hand, or you have to have the articulated hands. And as good as they are in theory, they don't really work that well. So I'll try and give you a demonstration. Here is one. Now, they look really, really cool. And I had actually seen these before. I think the first Iron Man, Mark IV Iron Man, which was incidentally my first ever Hot Toy. Pretty sure that has articulated fingers as well. So yeah, they are cool, but I think I would have preferred just a molded trigger finger hand. So this is the plastic weapon, and getting him to hold it is much easier than the die cast, but still it is a little bit tricky. So if you bend it around the trigger like that, and then you got to sort of put the thumb, but the thumb pops out of that ball joint quite frequently. Maybe it's me, I never seem to be able to get it how I want it. See, that's not too bad, but because of the weight or lack of the weight for the plastic gun, it just doesn't really sit, it doesn't really look like it's heavy. Whereas with the die cast, it looks better, but because it is actually heavy, you're restricted with how you can pose him. If you have him holding it at a certain way, the weight of the weapon will just fall out of the hand. And because the fingers are all plastic, see, that kind of looks good, but yeah, I just really, really struggle. I don't know if they would have redesigned it. I'm not too familiar with what they've done with the third Robocop figure that's being released, but maybe just a sculpted hand or a magnetic hand if they're going to give you a die-cast weapon. So yeah, these hands are what let it down, in my opinion. The data spike hand is very, very cool. It is a little bit bent at the end, but you can have him posed up with just that data spike coming out. These are not articulated, it is all just mold plastic. That's also a nice touch. And then in terms of the overall articulation, he is a very, very heavy figure. Being die cast, he's got a lot of weight to him, and he does have a good range of articulation. I tend to use the stand just because of the weight. A few times he's fallen against the cabinet and I just don't want him to fall out and break. But he does have some good articulation. So the neck gets complete 360 and a good amount of up, but not much down really. However, you can actually get some articulation from the base of the neck. So there's a peg up into the head and then one down into the body. So you can actually manipulate it quite well. So if you manipulate it from here, you're not getting much down. But if you move the collar and bring it forward, you can get quite a lot of down. The shoulders also have complete 360. They come out to about there. There is a little bit of a stop, but you can go past that and just pop it off the peg. He has a single jointed elbow. It is restricted because of the rubber, so if you get it too far up, it sort of starts to push it back down where the rubber is resisting against the steel. Full range of motion at the wrist, and then he does have just ball joints for the hands. And then obviously, as I've just covered, you've got the articulated fingers as well, so massive amount of articulation there, regardless of the limitation. He does have some rotation at the waist. I tend not to do it too much because I don't know if he can get any further than that. It feels like it might break, but still decent range. And this is actually segmented. So he has one piece here and then a second there, and that is attached to this third piece. So you do actually get a decent range of motion at the waist. At the leg, my figure is a little bit older, so over time it has got a little bit loose, but the leg gets up. Not that you're going to have Robocop booting down a door and then all the way back. Similar to the shoulder, it does have a natural stop, and if you pull it too much, it's going to come off the peg. At the knee, it is ratcheted. You can hear that ratchet. So up to about there. And then he has a good range of motion for the foot. It has I think it's a ball joint at the actual ankle. And as I said earlier, this is completely articulated. So this on a ball joint, and then it just pins in down there. These do come out from time to time. Don't worry too much if it does. It just literally pops back in. But something that's really cool is he has this toe hinge. So both feet do actually have a bit of articulation. It does actually pop back in, but if you want him just coming off one foot, you can just have it slightly bent. There you are. And then, as I covered earlier, this leg has the cavity in there for the holster, but it doesn't hinder the articulation. It works in the exact same way. So overall, for a die-cast figure, the articulation is very good. Okay, so my final thoughts on the die-cast Robocop from Hot Toys. This is a standout figure in my collection, and I'm so pleased that I own him. He just has this fantastic presence on the shelf. He really, really does. Everything about it just works. The overall look is there. The fact that they chose die-cast obviously makes sense, has a real weight in hand. The blue tinge in the armor is a little bit more inclined to his appearance in Robocop 2 than Robocop 1, but it's really not a problem. Swappable faceplates also capture Peter Weller's likeness very, very accurately. I also like that they included the battle damaged alternate look, so if it does get a little bit boring, you can actually swap it out. The only issue that I have, which I mentioned earlier, are the articulated hands. Very, very good in theory, but they just don't work. It could just be that I'm doing something wrong or that mine are a little bit loose. I'm also not a huge fan of the gimmicky audio that they give you, the remote control. It's not really a problem, take it or leave it, but typically I don't put batteries in any of my figures because I'm just worried about them corroding. If you're interested in getting this figure, then well, you probably can't get this figure that easily, but you are spoilt for choice when it comes to 1/6 scale Robocop figures from Hot Toys. You've got this guy and also the deluxe counterpart, which is exactly this, and then it has the chair as well. You can also get the 2-pack Alex Murphy and the Battle Damaged Robocop. There's also just the singular Battle Damaged Robocop, which I have, and I will be doing a review of him in the future. And now we have Robocop as he appeared in Robocop 3, so there's a lot of options. If you are interested in particularly this figure though, it could be a bit of a challenge to get, and being die-cast, he will fetch a pretty penny. That being said, I'll put a post in the description to William Wang's Facebook page. William Wang is a supplier of Hot Toys and 1/6 scale and 1/4 scale figures in Australia. I get a lot of my stuff from him, and not only is he a great guy, he does some really good prices, and he can get the older figures. So send him a message if you're interested. You never know, he might be able to get you one. Well, that about wraps up this review. I certainly hope that you've enjoyed it. As I said, stay tuned for the Battle Damage review. I'll post that probably in the next week or two. And until then, take care.
Drop it! Dead or alive, you are coming with me.